The New York Islanders are set to close out the 2024-2025 season in Columbus tonight. We have a special crossover episode with Jay Foster of Locked On Blue Jackets as we discuss the seasons for both teams and what to expect in the season finale. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. As I said, we have a special crossover episode, so I'm going to welcome in Jay Foster of Locked On Blue Jackets to talk a little bit about the season finale.
I figured let's talk about the Islanders season as a whole, kind of what went wrong. There was a minute there where we thought maybe they would figure it out. They got real close, and then they Islanders it up a little bit. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Blue Jackets season as a whole, and then we're going to talk about tonight's game as well. So I guess let's start off, Gil. What were your expectations like for the Islanders this season? And did they meet them, beat them, or completely throw them under the bus?
You know, my expectations, this is a team that has been stuck in the muddy middle of the NHL for 4 or 5 years now. And so my expectations were that the Islanders would finish somewhere between 7th and 10th in the conference and either just make or just miss the playoffs. So they obviously fell a little bit short of those expectations, but not by much. And I think there are a lot of reasons why this was a disappointing season. Certainly injuries played a big role. I mean, Matthew Barzal only played 30 games or so. A lot of injuries on defense where at one point 3 of their top 6 were all hurt at the same time. But realistically, this team is just a little too old and a little too slow and doesn't have enough depth. And yeah, they went to the back-to-back conference finals in 2020 and 2021. But Lou Lamoriello hasn't done enough to revitalize this team and is stuck more or less with the same roster. And as they've aged, the results just aren't there anymore.
So I feel like we have this conversation about the Islanders every summer. You know, what are they going to do to be better next season? And I know that it's tough because Lou Lamoriello doesn't tell anyone anything.
Right.
What are the Islanders going to do this summer? Is there a big summer for them upcoming? Are they going to make a big splash, or is this, you think, kind of maybe hopefully the beginning of the end, and they're going to maybe start to tear things down to try again?
Well, here's the deal. First thing is we need to know whether Lou Lamoriello and Patrick Roy or both are going to be back next year. There seem to have been some indications that they will be, although the fans, I think, at least for Lou, are hoping more or less that they won't be. But if Lou stays, he did mention that changes will be coming, but his definition of what the changes are and, you know, what most fans would like to see and what I would like to see from this team this offseason are two different things. And the big concern that I have, if Lou stays, at the trade deadline, they had 2 pending unrestricted free agents, Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri. And yes, they ended up trading Brock Nelson only because Brock Nelson said, hey, I'm going to test the free agent market, so I'm not going to sign an extension. But Lou Lamoriello wanted to sign both of them to extensions. And Brock is 33 going on 34. Palmieri is 33. Also, it just doesn't make sense to sign those guys to 3-year extensions and tie up a lot of cap space in them as the returns continue to diminish as they age out.
Obviously, it's been kind of an up and down season for the Islanders, let's say. There's definitely some bright spots. Like, as a casual who, you know, watches the Islanders a handful of times in a season, I think Simon Holmstrom has been a really bright spot. I think the rookie, whose name I'm going to butcher, Sipakov, he has
did that
been
well.
excellent, I think, for the Islanders, considering the Islanders. We don't need to get into the Bridgeport Islanders and their whole thing, but for a kid like Sipakov to come out of that and make an impact in the NHL, like that, there's got to be bright spots with the season, right? I think those two guys. Is there anyone else that the Islanders, like, you look at this roster and you're like, okay, that's a piece that they can maybe start to build around? Is there any hope for this roster, basically?
There is hope. I mean, you mentioned Simon Holmstrom. Bo Horvat's got 28 goals. You know, that's nothing to sneeze at, especially when you consider he played most of the season without Matthew Barzal. Ilya Sorokin played well for the most part, but was overworked. Started 60 games, and when Semyon Varlamov went down right after American Thanksgiving, they had to rely on Sorokin extensively. They didn't trust any of the other backups, and I think it did wear him down. But he is still, in my opinion, a franchise goalie who you can build around. And you know, there are some other guys on this team who have done well in different roles. I mean, Mark Gatcomb came up mid-season and gave a little juice to the fourth line. But again, you know, 8 goals and 1 assist in 38 games. He's not a game changer, but he adds a physical element and gave a little energy to a fourth line that was just floundering up until that time. But unfortunately, this year, the disappointments far outweigh the pleasant surprises. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it feels like, and this is maybe, I don't say this to be like disrespectful to the Islanders or mean or anything, but there are ways for a team to go from being a playoff team to not being a playoff team, you know, and it doesn't feel like the Islanders are doing it with a whole lot of grace. And maybe I'm biased in that because the Blue Jackets also did not do it with a lot of grace, but they also did it way faster. You know, it felt like they were a playoff team, and then the next day they were not a playoff team. But the Islanders have just kind of been doing this slow, miserable decline that isn't fun for basically anyone, I don't think. Yeah. As a side note for Sorokin, I know that you said that he was overworked this year, and he still managed to turn in a .907 save percentage. And he had 30 wins. So, like, I'm a big Sorokin fan. Hopefully they can get him some help next season so he doesn't have to play 60 of 82 games or 61 of 82 games. But yeah, you're right. Like, they've done the hard bit in theory, right? They've got a goalie.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a goalie. They've got a young defenseman in Noah Dobson who had an off year this year, had 70 points last year, but boy, he struggled in his own zone this year, and that was frustrating. Just the inability of this team to get the puck out of their own zone has just been a reoccurring theme, and opponents spending 60, 90 seconds just, you know, in the offensive zone, and the Islanders can't win the 50-50 puck battles, can't get the puck out, skate it or pass it, turn the puck over. And then don't get me started on special teams. 31st on the power play, 31st on the penalty kill. And the scary part is they actually have been a little bit better over the last, like, 4 to 6 weeks to get
Islanders.
that spot. So
I shouldn't laugh at that, but oh no, Islanders.
No, it's painfully funny, you know? I mean, it's not ha-ha funny for an Islander fan, but it's
one of those, if you don't laugh, what do you do about it?
Exactly. You either laugh or you cry, and I don't want to cry. So, no. You know, but it's been a frustrating season. And, you know, I think the most frustrating thing is that everybody except Lou Lamoriello seems to see the need for change, but he's the guy calling the shots. And ultimately, it's up to ownership. If ownership sees that there's a problem and Lou isn't willing to solve that problem, they've got to move on. But I think there's just so much respect for what Lou Lamoriello has accomplished over the course of his career in the NHL. He's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. They're kind of reluctant to say, hey, Lou, thanks, but it's time. And I think that's going to hurt the Islanders the longer they wait to start to retool. Everybody wants to be next year's Washington Capitals. Make a couple of quick deals, you know, buy out a player, stash a player on LTIR, and boom, you go from barely making the playoffs to competing for the President's Trophy. So I don't know if it's that easy, but that's the model I think the Islanders should be looking to, and I just fear that they're not going to do that.
Yeah. I always wonder if they're hoping that Lou Lamoriello will just decide to retire, because he is about 95 years old, if my math is correct. Maybe not quite that old, but
he's 83.
Yeah, which it's okay, Lou. You've done your time. Like, it's okay to sit down. Let's finish off, because I want to take a quick break, and then we'll flip the script and we'll talk a little bit about the Blue Jackets here. But I want to finish off with one last question, and we talked about this a little bit before. What's your hope for the Islanders in, like, October comes around? What are you hoping to see from the Islanders? I know that obviously we talked about you want to be the next Washington Capitals, right? But realistically speaking, what are you hoping to see from the Islanders in October?
I'm hoping to see some of the older veterans shipped out, whether they're bought out, traded, let go. I mean, like Kyle Palmieri is an unrestricted free agent who Lou did not trade at the trade deadline. If they don't re-sign him, I mean, I don't want to lose him for nothing, but I don't know if it's worth signing him to a 3-year extension at this point with a no-trade clause, which Lou loves to give out. But I want to see this team get younger, faster, and more skilled. And, you know, they've never signed a big-ticket elite free agent in the history of this team since the salary cap and modern free agency came in 2 decades ago. If they can bring in a goal scorer, whether it's by trade or free agency, I'd really like to see a sniper on this team.
Yeah, easier said than done, right?
Yeah,
but it's good to hope for. Let's take a quick break, and then when we get back, what we'll do is we'll flip the script, and I'm sure you have some burning questions, because you can say many things about the Blue Jackets, but you cannot call them boring. So we'll talk about their season in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets and Locked On Islanders. First, I've got to tell you about FanDuel, because the NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if that bet wins, and you can use that bonus bet money to spend on whatever you want. FanDuel makes it super easy, whether you're picking the money line, whether you're diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bet into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Just go to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets that you can spend on, again, literally whatever you want. FanDuel.com, official sports betting partner of the NBA, and also us, the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets and Locked On Islanders, a very special crossover episode to finish out the regular season for both teams. I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Gil. Grill me. What do you want to know about the Columbus Blue Jackets?
Well, let's start with this. What was it that helped this team overcome the obvious tragedy of Johnny Gaudreau's shocking passing over the summer? How did they respond, and why were they able to respond in a positive way, at least on the ice?
I think there's a couple of reasons for this, and I think one is just Johnny Gaudreau was such a special guy, like in the team, in the league, whatever. Like Johnny Gaudreau, and I think we've talked about this before, but Johnny Gaudreau is your favorite. If you had to pick a favorite player who wasn't on your team, Johnny Gaudreau was always the answer, right? Just a nice guy, wasn't flashy, wasn't like over the top or anything, just a really nice, good hockey player. And I think a lot of people respected that. And I think they really rallied around that. There was a lot of talk at the beginning of the season of, hey, John would have wanted us to go on and to play hockey and to have fun. So that's what we're going to do. Like the home opener, they played a video from Johnny's wife, Meredith, that basically just said, hey, go out and love the game the way that John loved it. And I think they've really rallied around that. The second thing, Sean Monahan. I think he was a huge catalyst, not only in the fact that he is a very good player, and he is a very good veteran. And I think the young kids like Adam Fantilli, Ken Johnson, Cole Sillinger have really kind of responded to having a competent adult around that knows how to win face-offs and like has been around the game a long time. Blue Jackets have been a very young team for a long time now. I think him coming in and A, being a good player, and I think B, I think everyone watching Sean Monahan turn up to work, knowing that he was supposed to work and play with his best friend for the next 5 years at least, and they didn't go on the ice together, and I think a lot of people on that team will have watched Sean Monahan go to work and do his job and do it with, dignity and poise and to enjoy the season. And they're like, well, if he can do it, then so can I. And I think that was the big thing for a lot of people, is realizing that if Sean Monahan can go about his day, and he's talked a lot about it. He's like, I have good days and I have bad days, like it, obviously it's horrible. It's awful. It's senseless. But if Sean Monahan can come to the rink and smile and do his best and score a goal, then so can I. And I think that's really what this team has rallied around.
Talk to me about Adam Fantilli. 30 goals this year, seems to have taken his game to another level. What has his impact been on this team?
Oh my God. Adam Fantilli. We could talk for 45 minutes about Adam Fantilli. We won't, but just know that we could. You can see him improve game after game after game. So I don't remember, I think it was Aaron Portzline tweeted out that he had 7 goals in his first 40-ish games of the season, and then finished the second half of the season with 23. Now, part of that is Monahan went down with an injury, and Fantilli got elevated to that first line center, played with Kirill Marchenko, who has, his own 30-goal season and has become one of the best two-way forwards in the league this season, I think is fair to say. So, that helps, but he just plays big boy hockey. He shows up and he's got all of the skill in the world. He's got all of the passion in the world. I always think about, there was a really funny quote, I think it was around about draft time, where they interviewed Adam Fantilli's father. And he said, well, if Adam wasn't playing hockey, he'd be in prison. And I think about that a lot, because he plays the game with the kind of aggression and violence that sometimes you love something so much that you could just you just are angry at it all of the time. And that's kind of how he skates. It's the passion, it's the drive. He wants to be the best player on the ice. And I think something clicked for him about halfway through the season, whether that was finally getting regular, like a real top 6 line mate, and no disrespect, but not playing with Kevin Labanc and Zach Aston-Reese for the entire game, but getting to play with guys like Kirill Marchenko, getting to play with guys like Kent Johnson, getting to play with guys like Voronkov, who has his own 20-goal season. I think once that happened, a switch just flipped. And then even when he dropped back down off the top line, when Monahan returned, he has 5 goals in his last 3 games. He's got 2 hat tricks on the season at 20 years old, and he's only going to get better. Just so much fun.
Yeah, I wish the Islanders had a player like that. We're hoping Cole Yzerman might develop into
the trick is to be just truly terrible for 3 seasons straight and then draft 3rd overall. So
yeah, which is the opposite of what Lou Lamoriello wants to do.
Yes,
so
Lou, listen to us. This is how being bad sometimes is good. Listen.
There you go. Should make t-shirts. But anyway, I got to ask you about Jack Greaves. I mean, the Islanders have seen him in the past, but boy, he just seems to come up big after Elvis goes down in goal. Where does he come from? It's like he's down in the minors. They bring him up. He shines for 5-10 games, and then maybe he fizzles. But boy, he has come up big in the past.
He's been the hero of this league. We talk about Adam Fantilli and, 5 goals in the last 3 games. Sean Monahan has had a really big impact. Jack Greaves has been here he's played 10 games this season. He's got a .934 save percentage, and he's allowed, I think, an average of 2 goals a game. He has been a rock star. The past 4 games, he's faced, I think, I tried to do the math live on an episode a couple of days ago, and it didn't work, but I believe in the last 4 games, he's faced 122 shots and has allowed 3 goals.
Wow.
he's been unbelievable. Like I can't say enough good things about Jack Greaves. Undrafted player, waltzes into Columbus, like plays in the AHL, and I think that for me is the big thing. I think there have been a lot of people that have wanted Jack Greaves to be called up earlier and to be the start, like as early as October this season. People have said Jack Greaves should be the starting goalie of this team, but you give them time to cook. The AHL is so important, especially for goalies. He's played, I think this is his third full season with the Monsters. Third full season as the starting goalie. Has been excellent, has been a workhorse down there. He wouldn't get the kind of work that he gets down there with the NHL at the minute. They have too many goalies. They would have to rotate 3 goalies, or there would have to be some kind of shenanigan. Letting him go sit in the AHL and play approximately 1 billion minutes has been great, because he comes up, insane week that he's had. Wednesday night, plays in Cleveland, beats the Grand Rapids Griffins 4-3. Thursday morning, drives to Columbus, starts a game that night, makes almost 40 saves to win the game. Gets a day off on Friday, good for him. Saturday, shuts out the Eastern Conference leading Washington Capitals. Sunday, 26 hours later, plays again, makes 20-something saves, allows 1 goal to Alex Ovechkin, which understandable. I think a couple of goalies have allowed a goal to him, a time or two. And then he shows up big again. Monday, I believe he went to a Phillies game. Tuesday, played again. Second shutout in 3 games. Unreal. He's been a monster. And he's come from nowhere. Like, you were like, yeah, where's this dude come from? We don't know. We just pulled him out of Ontario and threw him in the Monsters system and hoped for the best. And it's really, really worked out for this team.
Well, I mean, I remember he played late last year against the Islanders as well, and he played very, very well in that game. So this isn't the first time, that I've seen him or watched him, but wow, he really did a good job.
I'm considering rebranding to just Locked On Greaves, because I've talked about him, like he's been the main focus of like the last 4 episodes, and for good reason, right? Well, like we talked about with Sorokin, the hardest thing in this league is to find a goalie. I don't know if the Blue Jackets have found their Sorokin, but Jack Greaves is making a really, really good case to be their Sorokin.
Well, let's see if he can do it next year.
For sure. Let's take another quick break. And then when we get back, we'll talk about tonight's game. We'll make some predictions. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about the goaltending. So I think that's going to be the story in this game. So we'll do that all in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets and Locked On Islanders. First, I'm going to tell you about a brand new sponsor, and that is Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Avowed. As easily as you can stream your favorite shows, you can play a video game. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. They've got the latest technology for elevated playing with Wi-Fi 6 and 6E and auto low latency mode advanced technology. Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds that you can use to stay competitive. It's also affordable and portable. You can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. And if you already have a console, a Fire Stick TV 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your and your kids' games wherever you plug in. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required, and they're only available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation. That is Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets and Locked On Islanders. We're going to talk a little bit about tonight's game because it's game 82. You got to finish strong, right? The Blue Jackets and the Islanders are both on the outside of the playoffs looking in. So this game doesn't really mean anything. This game was almost huge, right? If the Canadiens had lost last night, the Islanders will be looking to play spoiler, and the Blue Jackets will be looking to finish the season and sneak into the playoffs. That's not going to happen. This game is essentially meaningless. However, I still think that there's not necessarily bragging rights, but you want to finish the season strong, right? Finishing the season with a loss sucks. What do the Islanders need to do to win this game?
The thing for the Islanders, and I think I've noticed this pattern over the last month or so, especially. When they play well in their own zone, they can beat anybody. If Sorokin sees the puck, he'll stop the puck more often than not. And if the Islanders are not backed up in their own zone for long periods of time, giving up lots of high danger chances, they have a good chance to win. If they're sloppy in their own zone, it's going to be a long night. And I think that is the key. Too often the defense retreats. They give time and space. If you end up with, some fast, dangerous players, if Adam Fantelli is coming, into the zone with momentum and speed and room, it's going to be a big problem. So the failure to pick up people defensively, the failure to clear the zone, that is the biggest thing. The other thing that has sort of surprised me, and I'm wondering, I'll ask you this, the Islanders have not rested anybody. They have not called anybody up from their AHL affiliate. Do you think the Blue Jackets will rest some people for the season finale? Do you think there's anyone down in Cleveland they're going to call up to give them a taste in this last NHL game? Or do they go with more or less the roster that they've used all year?
I was just kind of debating that myself. It's a weird one. So the Cleveland Monsters played last night. So that's kind of there, obviously. Not that, players can play back-to-backs. Obviously, we've seen it, but I don't know that they call anyone up necessarily. They have a handful of players that are like healthy scratches at the minute, so some of them might get in. But I think for the most part, the players who have been playing will probably play. Like, I don't know if anyone is... I'm sure we'll hear about it in a couple of days' time, locker clean out, where we find out all of the horrific injuries that everyone has been playing with for the past 2 months. Like, I'm sure we're going to find out that Zach Werenski's been playing with, like, one hand, and his leg fell off in January, and, they've just been playing through it, right? So if there are any players that are, injured, I could see them resting. We might not see Dante Fabro tonight. That would be my guess. I think he's been playing through something for a little while now. But I think for the most part, you're going to get the Blue Jackets that have been playing for the past handful of games. You might not get the Blue Jackets with the same level of intensity because, obviously they had a lot to play for and now they don't have that much to play for. But for the most part, I think you're going to see most of the Blue Jackets that you've seen this team ice most of the season. Goaltending could be interesting. I feel like Jet Greaves deserves the start, but also I don't know if they want to give Danil Tarasov like one last hurrah before they unceremoniously send him off into the ether over the summer, because I don't think he's going to be back with the team. So my guess is it'll be Sorokin versus Greaves, which will be really fun. And probably quite a low-scoring game. Now that I've said that, it'll be a 7-6 final score. But I just looked it up. The 3 games that this team has played so far this season, the scores have been 2-0 Blue Jackets, 3-1 Islanders, and 4-3 Blue Jackets. So, like, not a high-scoring affair for any of these games, really. I guess 4-3 is kind of high-scoring, but not... The Blue Jackets have had a lot of 7-6 games this season, so maybe my standards have just kind of shifted,
Yeah.
But
I wonder if both teams let down a little bit on the defense based on the fact that there is nothing at stake.
100%. So this could be the offensive outpouring that Islanders fans have been waiting for, right? I think it'll be a really interesting game. I really do, because I don't think. Here's the thing: a lot of people talk about teams checking out, or when they talk about teams tanking as well. And I'm like, listen, the players do not tank.
Right.
These players are not wired in a way that they will willingly lose games. You see it every year. Like, even on bad teams, they have players that are tearing chunks off themselves to play, right? So I don't think we're going to see a game where both teams have kind of mentally checked out, because they both still want to win, right? They're hockey players. They want to win the game, regardless of what the outcome is going to be. Even if losing the game would help them, they want to win the game. That being said, it could be a much looser game than we've typically seen. It could be a game where both teams, like you said, just not a lot of defensive, not a lot of defense.
We may see 5-on-5 shinny is basically what we may see.
Yeah. I do think it's in both teams' best interest to keep the game at 5-on-5. Obviously, the Islanders' special teams are... Special is definitely a word that you can use to describe them. The Blue Jackets haven't been much better, and they have been one of the best. They have been, I think, the best 5-on-5 team in the league this season. They've scored more 5-on-5 goals than anyone else in the league, including Washington and Winnipeg in that. So it could be now that I've said that, because I can only use my hockey powers for evil. There's going to be approximately 743 minor penalties in this game. We're not going to play any of it 5-on-5, which again will get interesting. But let's finish off with kind of a final prediction, because I've enjoyed doing these all season long. What's the final score? And pick a goal scorer for the New York Islanders.
Final score is going to be 5-3, and I will say that Bo Horvat gets a goal for the New York Islanders. What's your prediction?
Solid. Is that a 5-3 Islanders win, or a 5-3 Columbus?
No, that's 5-3 Blue Jackets, and there'll be an empty netter at the end.
That's what I thought, but I felt like I had to just.
You had to ask. Empty net goal at the end. It'll be 4-3, and the Islanders will give up the empty net.
The empty net goals don't count on this podcast, so it's a 4-3 win. It's fine. I was also going to say a 4-3 win. For the Blue Jackets, not because of out of any sense of like thinking the Blue Jackets will genuinely win. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders win this game, but I've bet on the Blue Jackets in these predictions every single game so far this season, and it feels wrong to bet against them in game 82. So we are betting on the Blue Jackets winning 4-3. And Sean Monahan is 1 goal away from 20 goals, which would give the Blue Jackets a 6th 20-goal scorer this season. So I'm going to say that we have a Sean Monahan goal, maybe even on the power play if we're feeling spicy. But it should be an interesting game. Do I think it'll be a fun game? Not necessarily, but I think it'll be an interesting game, and that's not nothing, right?
Yeah, hey, you got to end it somehow, right? And exactly. Let's hope it's at least an entertaining game, more or less.
100%.
Thank you to Jay Foster of Locked On Blue Jackets for doing this special crossover episode here before the season finale. And thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Don't forget that you can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you. Game time or anytime. Everydayers, we will be back tomorrow with our key takeaways from the season finale against the Blue Jackets, and we'll start to look ahead to a very hopefully eventful offseason and a critical offseason for the New York Islanders. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.